In this video you will get to know what is the worst thing you can make when choosing the tires. So at the end of the day we will have some suggestions.
They act like they ain't know. Guess I gotta hit them with an update. I've been getting to it when I'm up late. Hit a nigga when you went the front gate. They act like they ain't know. Guess I gotta hit them.
Now that gives us the first topic to consider, tires width. What I want to point out is the thread pattern. The tires pressure is important. You can't use the same tires pressure even on the same spec of a tire from different manufacturer because of a different thread per inches as well as the rubber compound. They are just acting different. That is good reason to cover the carcass of the tires. Some tires deforms a lot compared to the other in terms of a carcass, and that kind of gives you a clue whether the tire will be easy to mount or it will be a pain in the butt when doing tubeless. From my experience, Schwalbes and actually Continentals are the most easiest to mount the tire on the rim. Whether they will bed on the rim or not, it's just a bit of a matter of luck, but those manufactured tires, it's not a problem. Wolfpacks are also good. Here is speed version. I couldn't say that others are bad, but in general, when it comes to mounting the tire on the rim, the hardest are Specialized or S-Works, because they are kind of very light weight tires. They has very thin carcass, and that gives you a bit of a headache to do so. With this amount of tires, I became pretty good at bedding and sealing. When you do that thing quite a lot, you get used to it and you know which part to push, which part to pull in order to make sure that the sealing process goes well. Also, when you go into the situations where you don't have the pump, you do something with CO2 cartridge, and that just gives you yet additional thought when to put the valve, etc. So that's good. When you do the same thing a lot of times, you know how to do it well, and you know how to do it fast. Fast might be important sometime when you are in a rush. When it comes down to using the tires in XC or XCM, where the speed is priority, the weight plays a major role in the rolling resistance, making sure that you accelerate fast. So for that reason, personally, I prefer the lightweight tires. The lighter the tire, the faster rolling it will be, but the important factor is tires pressure. Add it too low and you will be slow, add too much of it and it will also play against your favor. So it's very important to make sure that the tires pressure is good, so that way spending that extra for lightweight tire will prove it to be beneficial if you do everything right. Majority of those who voted in YouTube poll said that tires are more or less important, and only 10% said that it's not. So it's good, and hopefully at least one person out of those 10% will change their mind after watching these videos. Among from those tires, probably the heaviest are Continental Cross Kings, or maybe ground controls from Specialized. So yeah, those are probably around 800 of grams. The wider the tire, the more heavier it will be. There can be some exceptions, like with S-Works Fast Track, which is 600 something, and it's 2.35 width, but at the same time the carcass is like, you know that the tire has very thin carcass and less rubber when you take it out from the package, and it just spins around and makes a mess. That gives you an indication already. Probably the lightest from those all are Renegade, which comes a bit less than 600s, and then it would be Thunderbird, maybe 600 something. Race King is also pretty much lightweight. When to choose lightweight and fast rolling tire is one out of two cases. Is either the terrain will be fast rolling, hard packed, non-technical. Other time is when you are very technical and you just don't care. You can go on slick tires and you will have no problems with that. Nice. That's an asset which someone has, and that's good for them. For those who don't, You just try everything and figure it out what works the best for you. When editing this video, I realized that there are some topics which are not covered properly, and one of those is why I decided to create this video in the first place. So basically, I just wanted to fill that void of unknown and test some things on my own in order to figure out what works the best for me, and maybe that will help others to decide as well. The topic of rolling resistance is hard to justify in practice. There are websites like Bike Rolling Resistance which compares tires rolling resistance and all other parameters, but there are not up-to-date tires, so some are missing. And other than that, at some point when you have rubber and you have high profile, it's hard to justify the results because they are doing that test on the roller, and at the same time when you have soft compound on hard surface, it begins to slip. So for that reason, those tests are good up to a certain point, and they are only done on the hard surface. When you add additional ingredient into the whole equation, it might change things a bit, but at the same time, it's a good starting point to check the rolling resistance if you are into geeky things. So was it worth buying all those tires and trying to test them? Well, at some degree, probably I'm going to sell them out. Some of them are already worn out and they will be thrown away. Others, like for example Pirelli Scorpion 6C, might be waiting for their second chance to be mounted on the bike. So this one is XCRC Light Team Edition, and this one is Pro Wall. There are plenty of options and we'll see how it goes. So what is the best tires choice you can make? I promised you to mention the worst case, and the worst case is choosing the tires which your favorite rider rides. Sorry to break your heart, but if Nino or any other rider rides 2.4s, that doesn't necessarily mean you should be qualified to ride 2.4s as well, simply because you don't necessarily ride in the same place, you don't necessarily have the same power, and it don't necessarily is the match. With that said, I'm not saying that you should throw away the tires with which bike comes to you, but you should consider the terrain, the style, and general conditions where you ride, and then just consider whether they work for you or not. And at the same time, you can sell the tires in aftermarket if you see that they are not a fit or they are just unperforming and you want to try something else. And trying something else, maybe at not such extremes, is a pretty good thing because you get to know what it is about, and later down the road you can just choose what you like the most. And in order to choose what you like the most, you have to be tried something else than going on a recon race for 3 years and thinking that it's the best tire in the market. Subscribe if you want to learn more about the bike stuff or MTB racing. Things are coming your way. What you can expect more out of these tires is that potentially I will do comparison from some which are in the same field, so like 2.2 of one or other manufacturer, with some specs and some actual experiences out of them. But nonetheless, if you have a limited amount of tires, you can always play around with the pressure, and trust me, you would be super surprised how going from 2 bars to 1.5 can change your life completely on the bike, not in your casual daily life. Simply said, if you are racing from your early days, you one way or another know what one thing does and what the other can offer to you. While me, I'm racing only for 3 years, and I wanted to fill that unknown void which stuck to me in some places where I had just no clue what I'm doing and what should I do. So that was the reason why I decided to go that path. Not necessarily you have to go that deep into a topic, but this was one of those which I wanted to understand myself better. So as you can see, it's not a direct recommendation, but just a broad understanding about the topic. And about my bike, I currently run just whatever setup for the winter, but normally I have 30mm internal width at the front and 28 at the back. At the back I usually use narrow tire just a little bit, so that way it just kind of gives better entering into the corners. and also more rolling. If you have the same internal width rims on your bike, then you can just use narrow tire at the rear and you will have just the same effect. So as you can see, it's a very widespread topic and everyone has their own opinion what's the best, and it's okay. That said, that was initial review of inspection of those tires, and we will meet in the future maybe a bit more cleaned